What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. The first full week of set 4 is finally here, and we have Evasive discard. This is an Amethyst Emerald deck that I think is going to be tier 1. I think this deck is going to take off and be crazy good. And what do? We take advantage of things like Bucky being able to discard off your early shifts of your Pegasus, but we also fit in Blue Fairy to help you maintain advantage and draw in an alternate pattern to, say, a Prince John playline. However, he is also in the deck. So without further ado, we are on the play. No, we're on the draw. Sorry, against the Ruby Amethyst. Is this deck still the deck to beat? Going second, we're going to get rid of the Flynn, Ursula, and Bruno, so we have our alternate playline in the Ursula draw 4. In this matchup, I do want to get that big advantage early, and in addition, we do still have our Bucky Diablo playline to go for if we want. We hit another Flynn, Pegasus, and then Shift Flynn. In this deck, the Flynn Rider stuff ended up not making the final cut. It was just an aggro package that also triggers the Bucky in a pretty good way. So it ended up not making the final cut. The Shift Flynn was clogging my hands, kind of like this, making sometimes your plays a little weird. And I only played 2, and it seems like I either saw none or 2 all the time. In addition to that, I was low on uninkables, so we ended up putting in Cursed Merfolk and taking out the Flynn just as a 1-drop card to kind of come back with a little quicker. We draw a Bucky, so we get rid of it, and again, I want to go for the advantage here, especially having 3 more uninkable cards in our hand. So ideally now we can go ahead and sing Friends on the other side the next turn, draw 4 cards, ink a card, and then do you go ahead right away and play your Diablo or something? Well, I guess Be King Undisputed. That card is crazy, by the way. Comes down, gets rid of our Ursula. I want to keep the Flynn so we can at least get our Bucky discard line going. We hit a Ursula, so that's actually pretty decent. We play the Bucky, and then I play the Flynn to go after his hand. Probably should have used Ursula first. We see a Scar get discarded, but use Ursula first just to get that hand knowledge and see exactly what we're walking into. However, we can go ahead and then quest with the Flynn. The downside, though, is if you miss with the Ursula, especially when he just played a song, it just kind of feels bad. Unfortunately, another Be King Undisputed comes down, so we're going to lose our Flynn. We pretty much have to keep the Bucky just to keep the engine rolling. He's going to quest for 2 more, and we hit a We Don't Talk About Bruno. So now, ideally, we're just going to ink the Bruno, play the Ursula, hit a song, play the Diablo, hit the other card. He doesn't have a song, however, so he has Rabbit and Ursula in hand. We get rid of the Ursula, or I should say he gets rid of the Ursula. Rabbit comes down, going to draw him a card, and then he can quest once again with the mini to 6, and then it will be our turn. We do have Flynn, who we can play and discard a card, so that's helpful. We can keep the discard rolling. We play it. Bucky, hit a card. Let's see what he gets rid of. He gets rid of a Rabbit, so then Diablo and Ursula can go ahead and quest. I'm going to hold the other Ursula just because we're kind of getting to that be prepared, come back with like the Tremaines and the Medusas, things like that. Just start getting resources in my hand, and Diablo is also going to help us do that a ton. So he goes into the Ursula. Pirate's Life, that's not a card that you should really expect to be seeing very often in Ruby Amethyst, assuming they were just testing it out. I also disagree very strongly there with the mini into the Ursula. Ursula is not really a big threat. I mean, I happen to draw into the Shift Ursula, but that's besides the point. Like, now you enable this, like where Diablo can take out your mini, and then I can quest for 4 with the Flynn. I still could have taken the mini out. You're still in a bad spot no matter what. But otherwise, it would have taken Diablo plus Flynn into your mini to take him out. And would that matter? Not likely, because I already have enough cards in hand that if I do get Be Prepared, I have a way better comeback. So I can go like Pegasus plus Ursula, and or I guess in this case, if that's what my next draw is going to be, I'd go Ursula plus Blue Fairy. Then next turn, shift, draw an extra card, and just be sitting good. And with the 2 characters, I would have that Tremaine insurance. So again, even if a Be Prepared comes down, we have so much advantage at this point that it's really not going to matter. So many cards in this deck either go after our opponent's hand or add to our hand, and the cards that don't do either of those things, they're all like evasives. So it's just really, really helpful and applies a lot of pressure to the opponent to be able to answer it quickly. Big thing you may have noticed, something like Grab Your Swords is going to be really good against this deck. I mean, your Ursula characters have the willpower to survive it. If you can get to shift Pegasus, he can survive it. What other cards do we have that can really get around that? Your Mim Fox has enough to survive it. So you don't just outright lose to the card, especially if you can get big Ursula. So if you're going into like Steel Song matchup, definitely prioritize the 2-drop green Ursula to get the songs out of their hand, especially Be Prepared, or the Grab Your Swords. Our opponent is going to admit defeat there. This next replay, I thought it was the full replay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead of it here in a second. But they just conceded in the middle of the match, so I apologize that you have to hear me talk about it. But we'll see you at the next replay. So we have Ruby Amber. Is it Mufasa or is it the song version? I'm not too sure yet, but we get to go first, so that's nice. We don't need 2 Diablos. Debating if I wanted to keep the friends or not. I'm like, I got my 1, I got my Diablo. I'm going to keep the friends on the chance that I get to the Ursula, or I just need the draw, or I can just use it as ink. We don't really have anything discardy. Prince John not going to be too helpful here. Is it kind of crazy that I'm debating cutting Prince John 2 from the deck? We can go ahead. We draw into it double Flynn, the Pegasus, and the Ursula. So we do hit our draw 4 play line, which is really nice. Obviously, it's always going to be a good thing. We see Mulan come down, and the shift Mulan is something we definitely want to worry about here too. Just being able to say, if it deals any damage, then hitting my other characters to clear my evasives that way is something you want to look out for. It's Ruby, so the 3-cost Sisu, who can get rid of any character with 1 or less strength, is another card to look out for. Shift Sisu is going to be really strong. Basically grab your swords, but for the attack instead of the willpower. Maui goes and gets inked. Putting the Flynn down kind of like a, do you have it? But he has the Rapunzel, and I don't know why you don't challenge there. Like, I thought for sure you heal the Mulan, you challenge the Flynn, right? Like, that's the play. There's no reason not to do it, right? Unless I'm missing something. It always feels really good. We get a free turn with Flynn. I'm not going to complain about that. And then the comeback with Bucky plus the Blue Fairy, because now we're not going to have enough ink to go like double Diablo or Pegasus plus Diablo. Shift Mulan comes down anyway, which takes out our Ursula, and then it's going to deal 2, taking out our Blue Fairy and our Pegasus. Makes our next play a little easier, because now it's like, okay, we're obviously going to go Diablo plus little Pegasus, ink the Chernobog. He's going to have to discard a card, and we can once again quest, or we're not going to quest with the Flynn actually, because if the Mulan takes out the Flynn, well, then he's going to take out our Pegasus and the Diablo. So once again, like, that Mulan just applies a lot of pressure here. So we essentially need to keep our evasives, and that's where we're at. If we hit an inkable card here, we can at least come back with Pegasus plus Diablo. We hit Flynn, hey, that's an inkable card. So we can go ahead, Diablo, our opponent's going to have to discard 1 card, and then shift the Pegasus, our opponent's going to have to discard a 2nd card, but more importantly, our Bucky and Flynn gain evasive until next turn. So now we can go ahead and quest for 5. Seeing a Lady Tremaine go away feels so good. If Lady Tremaine did come down, Flynn would be the very easy choice to get rid of. but we go to 12, and now we're at a point, so Stitch comes down, but we're at a point where we can quest for, say, 3 next turn. If our opponent can't win on his turn, he can go to 18, right? So we can quest, go to 15, and then leave the rest readied. And if our opponent can't win on this turn, we're going to go ahead and win on our turn. Even if, say, something comes down, like a Medusa gets rid of the Pegasus, we still have Pegasus, Bucky, Flynn, and Diablo, which is 5. So Be Prepared is really the only card in this scenario that we lose to. I guess something like a double Sisu would have been really, really strong. Would have been able to clear out the Flynn plus the Pegasus. We'd still go to 19 though, but at that point he'd quest everything out and then win on his following turn. So our opponent's going over all their choices, going over what they can do, try to do, and they realize that they cannot do anything. So last but certainly not least, it is Ruby Emerald of all decks. So essentially kind of the evasive battle. Let's see what our opponent ends up doing. We get to go first, so that's pretty cool. We have Flynn, don't matter, but we have Blue Fairy with the Pegasus playline. That always feels really good. Going first, we don't really need the Fox, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of all of that. We hit a second Fox. We hit Diablo, so that's really nice. Little Flynn and Ursula, also not too bad. We don't have any songs. I'm going to get rid of the Ursula. We're not really going to prioritize that whatsoever. If we draw into a Friends, I'll just sing it with Diablo and get a couple cards. We don't need 4. We'll just get the 2. So we go Pegasus. Then we can go ahead, get rid of the Flynn, play the Blue Fairy. So we're going full evasive here, right? Like, we have Pegasus now. We have double Diablo now. His Felicia is just going to sit there. It's not going to be able to do anything. Seeing that Pegasus get inked and then another one played, I would have almost, I don't want to say played like anything else or inked anything else, but maybe, like, I don't know what he necessarily expected, but like, you should know Diablo's coming. Obviously, you can clean take out the big Pegasus too with the 3 attacks. So like, I don't know. I feel like it was a really weird choice of our opponent to ink that card out of everything. We get the Challenger or the Reckless from the Jacques, so we just take out the Pegasus at that point too. Like, that's okay. We'll play another Diablo. He discards a card. We'll hold off on our Pegasus until the following turn. Chernobog's such a good card in this deck too, because guess what? You can just quest and then banish it and draw a card. Lumiere, not going to matter. Queen of Hearts, not going to matter. Our opponent can't touch us. So we go ahead, play Bucky here, and then I'm like, what do we want to ink? Let's go ahead, ink Ursula, and then we can quest, shift into the Pegasus, discard a card, draw a card, and quest up to 7. So if our opponent has anything left in his hand as well, we're going to go ahead and discard another card from him next turn. Diablo just gets rolling. Those we don't talk about, Brunos too, are going to be so nice. Like, when your opponent has no hand, it's essentially just you get to get rid of a card off the board. It's just, the card is so good. We're going to go ahead here and we're going to sing the first one and we're going to hit that Jacques. We hit a Be Prepared, which actually I'm really happy with. Like, Be Prepared, we just want to get rid of. Then we hit the Lumiere, quest. I don't necessarily care about Bucky here. Like, he can take out the Bucky, right? We're at 10. We're sitting really good with evasives. I felt like I was in a pretty decent spot to not have to worry about it. Weight Medallions comes down, just a little draw card. Then we're going to get the +2, draw again. Take out our Bucky, which, like I said, I wasn't really worried about it because we're just a couple turns away from it. Just putting the whoops in there, you know, sometimes it's fun to make our opponent feel like we just messed it up or so. But we go to 16, or we go to 14 here. We play the Pegasus. That puts us to 16, or not 16, but it puts us with lethal on board. So essentially our opponent would have to do something. What if a Lady Tremaine comes down? We can go ahead, ink, play the Bucky, and now if Lady Tremaine comes down, we use the Bucky. or as our fodder for it. So once again, be prepared is the only thing we lose to here, and our opponent has it. So we lose to the be prepared. However, we have 5 cards, and I don't know if you noticed, but our opponent has nothing. So we're able to put down the fairy and the Pegasus, which once again are evasives. Diablo comes down, so our opponent's got a little evasive of his own. Less than I expected to see, I will say that. We play the Fox, we bounce the Pegasus, then we replay the Pegasus, we get the free draw, ink, and then pass turn. If he takes out the blue fairy, we still win the game. So this deck is a ton of fun. It is so good at generating advantage. Going second, going first, you kind of stick to roughly the same playline because so many of your important cards are evasives. So you don't necessarily have to worry about your opponent's board. Like I said, something like grab your swords. Steel Song is going to be the thing that you're going to have to really look out for. But let's go over the deck list. So here we are. It is going to be a little bit pricier. Those Diablos and Ursulas obviously run up the cost of the deck pretty high. If you're looking for Ursula, we do have our monthly Patreon giveaway information down below for a playset of Ursula, Deceiver of All. But we're only playing 11 uninkable cards, so it's very few times you run into ink clogged up hands. Again, we took out the Flynn Rider packages, taking out a couple other things that if you don't see it in here and you saw it in the video, I do apologize. Like through the testing and saving of dozens of replays, I do make slight changes to the deck as we go along. But Flynn, the 2-drop came out because I'm like, well, we're only at 7. We're at 7 non-inkable cards. Let's take Flynn out, put Merfolk in. It costs 1 less to do it. Essentially the same thing, but just like that lower ink cost late game or when you're just spamming the board to go wide actually comes up quite a bit. Pegasus then, this card is so good. It's so good. I almost played Pascal here too, just to fit the evasive theme a little bit more. 4 blue fairies. Snakes initially wasn't in the deck, but kind of like Fox, once in a while you're going to have to go after your opponent's board a little bit. So Snake and Fox just kind of fit that role with their 3 and 4 strength respectively. So that's why we did put Snake back in, but initially this card was not in the deck. Then we have our 4 Buckies. Card is just really, really good in this. It fits with Diablo. It fits with Pegasus so well. Ursula, Deceiver, obviously 4 of. We just mentioned Fox. Diablo, Diablo is crazy. There's a reason this card's so expensive. Like I said, I kind of underestimated it a little bit, but at the same time, like this card, I don't think it's a 4 of in all Emerald builds, but in this build, for sure, it is. Any Emerald discard build playing Bucky is going to play 4 Diablos. It's a 3-cost Floodborn. Like, what more do you need to know about it? Only 3 Prince Johns. Like I said, I'm actually debating taking this card out because Diablo and Ursula are so much better as turn 3 options, and even coming back with, say, a blue fairy, if you have it, is arguably better than Prince John. Your blue fairy loses to pretty much the same cards your Prince John does. She does also lose to targeted destruction, whereas Prince John will not. But like grab your swords, again, is the biggest bane of my existence with this deck. And, well, they both lose out to it. However, the evasive is very good. And her being able to draw when I'm playing my characters to extend my hand is so nice instead of having to go after my opponent's hand to be able to draw off of it. So again, Prince John really might find his way out of the deck. What would I put in? I mean, it's non-inkable. Our 4-cost spot is really low. There's a strong chance we'd put in 4 Rabbit for the draw power, especially with the bounce package still, and call it a day. Like I said, so Prince John really might come out for those Rabbits. I want to keep testing it more before I make that definitive decision. Ursula, Deceiver of All, obviously is going to be a 4 of. Again, we have the giveaway going on. Patreon information is down below. Then we're playing Tinkerbell. So it's kind of nice when, like, because sometimes you're not going to want to, like, use your Diablo or Pegasus usually is fine to take out your opponent's Diablo, but, like, you're not going to want to Diablo into Diablo and lose them both. Sometimes you will because you can just clear that from your opponent. You know, you maintain your tempo because you're the one reacting to it, and you force them to have a comeback play, whereas you kind of get to think it out ahead of time and do it. But sometimes it just feels bad. Not only can Tinkerbell take out a Diablo, she can also give like Ursula, Fox, Snake, all of these cards evasive, and then they can take out those Diablos. In addition to that, too, I don't know if you noticed the 4 and the 3 means like Surfer Mini or things like Pegasus also are no match when your Tinkerbell gives your Mims evasive for that turn. Cricky. Almost played Crab here, but like I said, kind of like with the Mims, sometimes you need to deal with your opponent's boards. Like, ideally with this deck, you don't have to. You generate a lot of pressure and advantage early, and you don't have to, but sometimes you're going to have to deal with their boards, and giving everything Challenger +3 is really, really strong, especially when he has 4 willpower of his own and Quest for 3 on the back end. For Pegasus, this card is just so strong, so good. 3 Ursulas too. The card is just really, really good. Keep in mind, remember this. It's something I kept forgetting initially when I first started testing this card. When your opponent has like readied characters, quest with her first. Quest with her first. Exert their character, and then you get to challenge their character and take it out. Our songs we're playing 4 Sudden Chill, 4 Friends on the Other Side, and then 2 We Don't Talk About Bruno. If Prince John comes out, there's actually a decent chance Bruno comes out too. But at the same time, you can get to such simplified states that this card, at worst case scenario, it's like a 33% chance to clear a threat. You bounce it, which no matter what resets their tempo, and then usually they're going to have 0 to 2 cards in hand when you play this, and that means you have a 100 to 33% chance to discard the card that you bounced. But worst case scenario, you do bounce it nonetheless and reset their tempo. So this is the deck. Like I said, I really think this is a top tier threat. Absolutely tier 1. It's probably going to be my go-to deck of the format. I am going to pivot, play like Amethyst Steel on the other side, just for, you know, when everyone's too prepared for Emerald. Maybe we'll mess around with Steel Song a little bit more. But until next time, guys, thanks for watching and take care.